What's up, everybody, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about ayahuasca. This is going to be a three-part series where I share my experience with different psychedelics, but the first one I started with was ayahuasca. What is ayahuasca, you might be wondering? Ayahuasca is a brew from South America. It's a root and a bark which they mix together and they boil it, and once it's ready, when you drink it, it produces DMT in your system. And DMT, some people call it the spirit molecule. When you connect to the DMT, you can have mystical experiences. That's the best way I can think of explaining it. So you might be wondering why I decided to do ayahuasca. So it's about 4 or 5 years ago, I had been through it. Like, life hadn't been easy for me. I went through depression. I went through a spell where I was suicidal. I worked through that. I started reading a lot and just working on myself and changing how I saw myself and how I saw the world. I want to say about 3 months into doing this, like, I was doing EFT tapping, I was meditating, I was doing my affirmations, I was doing all kinds of things, to be honest. But I wasn't getting the results I wanted. And I kind of felt like from everything that I learned at that point, I'd sort of reached a block and I just didn't know how to move forward. One day, my sister calls me and she's asking me about ayahuasca, and I'm like, no, I've never heard of it, don't know what that is. And she's like, well, I saw somebody on YouTube, it sounds like that's right up your alley. She sent me the video, I watched it, and I knew it. In that moment, I knew this was exactly what I needed to do. So I had a friend who had gone to South America to do ayahuasca. So I called her up and I was like, hey, I know did you do ayahuasca? Because I wasn't 100% sure. I was kind of guessing at that time. It turned out that she had done ayahuasca, and I was just asking her about her experience and how much it was to go to Peru. She gave me the amounts, and at that time I was broke. I was unemployed. I couldn't afford to go. And so I told her, I was like, yeah, I would love to go. I really want to do it, but I can't afford it right now. I'm unemployed. And then she went on to tell me that I didn't have to go to South America because there were some people here in Ontario who were actually doing ayahuasca ceremonies. I got the information, I signed up, and within a month, I found myself somewhere up there in Ontario partaking the brew called ayahuasca. Now, this was a 2-day ceremony. On the day that I arrived, basically they tell you not to eat anything after 4 p.m. That's your last meal, and they have a diet that you have to follow. I'm gonna be honest, I did not do a good job of following the diet. And if you ever do ayahuasca, I recommend that you do the diet. There's a reason for it. If you don't do the diet, the purging on the day off, it ain't cute. That's all I gotta say about that. So went over there. When I arrived, I'm gonna say it was around about 15 of us in the ceremony. I don't remember the exact number. And the people who were conducting the ceremony, the shaman, they were lovely people. Like, I felt at home. I was never scared or anything like that. They just had a loving, beautiful environment. And I don't know, it just felt like this was, I was at the right place and I was doing the right thing for me. So around about 11 p.m. is when the ceremony started, and they do the prayers, and then they start calling you one by one to drink this brew. Now, let me tell ya, it does not taste good. It really does not taste good. It's a root bark. Like, it's a brew of a root bark and some part of a tree, and the leaves, I think. Don't quote me on this. I could be mixing it up, but it doesn't taste good. The taste, But this lovely gentleman who was giving us the brew, he would give us the brew and then he would say, you can have a gummy after. So thank God for gummies. It really made it easier. So you take the brew and you go back to sit on your mat. They turn down the lights and then they're playing music. Like the music is amazing. It's this Native American music about ayahuasca. And you sit on your mat. I'm gonna say around about an hour, that's when it starts kicking in. So I'm sitting there, I don't know what to expect at this point. I'm open-minded, whatever comes, God knows I'm ready. Like I'm in it, I might as well just go all the way. About an hour in, I start seeing images in my head. So at this time, like you're sitting on your mat, you got your eyes closed, you have a blindfold, like they will, you put a face mask on your, just to take yourself out of the environment and just so that you can be in your own space. I start seeing like little psychedelic pictures, things are going on. I'm like, okay, I think it's working. And then as time went on, the images got brighter and bolder. And with the music, it was like the images were dancing with the music. Like these psychedelics, it was dancing with the music. And I felt like I was at a welcome home party for myself. I knew there were 20 people there, but in that moment, it was just me. It was me and this was my party. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. I like this. I'm enjoying this. So that party ended. And the next thing that came for me was I saw an image of me on the first day I went to school. I remember looking at that. I'd forgotten all about that. And I'm watching this unfolding and I'm like, no, we don't need to see this. Why is this coming up? I don't want to see this. I had forgotten all about that memory. I had forgotten that my first day in grade 1 was the most traumatizing experience in my childhood. What made it traumatizing is that on the first day that I arrived at school, all the kids ran away from me. Like I had kids crying. They were like bawling their eyes out. And because they were scared of me. So it wasn't good. I went into class, nobody wanted to sit with me. I remember at that time, like sitting with the teacher. Luckily, my grade 1 teacher happened to be our neighbor. So it kind of made it a little bit easy in that sense. But just the trauma of seeing other kids running away from me, other kids crying, and I don't understand why. It was just a lot. So I watched this whole thing unfold and I didn't understand. So I hear a voice. I hear a voice of a woman talking to me. And she was basically explaining, like, you see, this is your problem. This is where it starts from. And I was like, what problem? And she's like, you're stubborn. And I'm like, excuse you? I don't think I'm stubborn. And she's like, yeah, you're stubborn. And I was like, well, I don't understand why you would say that. What do you mean exactly? She's like, well, see, what happened is, so in this moment, like she's talking, I'm just understanding what this was all about. So I guess in my 6-year-old mind, when all the kids ran away from me, I told myself that I was going to prove them wrong. I was going to do anything and everything that I can to let them know that I'm okay and I'm a cool person to be around. So I made it my mission. So one of the struggles that I had was that I was very nearsighted. I didn't see. So there was always this thing like, oh, you can't do this because you can't see. You can't go here because of this. So I set out at that time that I would do whatever I wanted. and I wasn't going to be stopped by anyone or anything. So there was this stubbornness that set in me to where, like, if I was told that I can't do something just because of who I was, I set out to prove whoever said it wrong. And I went through this all my life. But what was happening now is that now Liz, as an adult, didn't need to be stubborn anymore. So what was happening is that I was still using the same mechanisms of fighting and holding on to stuff because I'm still trying to prove that I can do it. I'm still trying to prove that this is the right thing for me. So needless to say, it was working against me, because at that time there were certain things in my life that I just needed to let go. I had to let them go, but I wasn't doing that. See, I was holding on. I was telling myself, just have faith. It's gonna work out. Keep pushing, keep grinding. You get there. But really, what the medicine was showing me was that I needed to let those things go. So I'm like, okay, I understand. I gotta let this go. But here was the kicker. I couldn't. I had a hard time. I was sitting there, I felt like puking, like my guts were going, and nothing was coming out. Now everybody around me, they are puking their guts out. They are like crying, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, psh. At one point, that woman came back and she's like, you need to go to the shaman and ask them to help you. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why am I going to ask for help? I can do this. I came here by myself. I got this sorted out. I can figure it out. This is the conversation I'm having with myself. The next thing I know, I see my brain rotting. I kid you not. Like, I saw worms coming out of my brain. And this woman goes on to say, like, see what you're doing to yourself. See what you're doing to yourself. And I knew in that moment that I am not listening to her, and that's not good. I really need to go ask for help. But I'm still contemplating. I'm still thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm sure I can figure this out. And she said, listen, you are stubborn. Even when I show you what the issue is and what you need to do, you still won't listen. That's when I was like, okay, ma'am, heard you. Okay. I got up from my mat. I went to one of the people who was leading the ceremony, and I was like, hey, I have a problem. And she's like, what's going on? I was like, apparently I'm stubborn and I just can't break through it. I don't know what to do. She's like, that's no problem. Come over here, take more medicine. And I'm like, oh God. So I took the second cup and I went back to my mat, and I was sitting, I was just listening to music and whatnot, and I'm still dealing with this stubbornness, this issue that I have from my childhood. And then finally I start to feel like my guts coming up. Then the pukes came. I puked. I let my guts out into the bucket, okay? And I remember just sitting there, my stomach was empty and stuff came coming out, and I'm like, where in the world is this stuff coming from? I haven't ate, I'm hungry, my stomach is supposed to be empty. It kept going and going and going. Close to early in the morning, I started seeing just so many things. I was just like, the part of my being stubborn went away. Now I was just learning about myself. It got to a point where that lady came back and she's like, you've never felt love. You've never felt love. I want you to feel love. This is what love feels like. And I felt like a burst of love coming out of my heart, and it filled my entire being. I mean, it was everywhere. It was like the best feeling that I have never felt like that in my life. Never. I had no idea that I was even capable of feeling like that. That love overflowed. It was everywhere. It was in me. It was all around me. And then after that, she was like, I want you to feel abundant. This is what abundance feels like. And it was just like another burst again coming out of me. And I'm just feeling. And in that moment, I knew. I finally understood what they mean when they say you create your own reality. I was like, oh, so this is what it looks like. Huh. Okay, okay. And then after that, the ceremony came to an end. That was day one. Second night, I was excited. I had the best experience. I mean, I was like in cloud nine. I was like, okay, I'm ready for second night. Bring on the second night. Tell me what I'm gonna see. So the second night was a little bit more chill than the first night, but the most interesting thing happened during my second night. Now, I wanted to get my third eye open. I was like, well, I want my third eye to be open. I watched a lot of YouTube videos, okay, in my defense. And as far as I understood, if you get your third eye open, you're gonna understand everything, da 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 da, whatever. Let me just say, side note, no, don't believe those videos. It's a little bit more complicated. They make it sound so easy. It's not about that. Anyways, back to my ayahuasca story. So the second night, we're going through the ceremony. Everything is good. I'm having a good old time. The music is amazing. I forgot to mention that I had severe back pain in this time. That was another reason why I went to ayahuasca, because I really, really wanted to heal my back pain. Yeah, I forgot all about that pain, okay? I was in heaven. Halfway through the night, the medicine, I started hearing this like sound like on my forehead. And I knew in that moment that my third eye was opening. I knew it. I didn't need anybody to tell me. I knew it. Not only did I know that my third eye was opening, I also knew that my life as I knew it was never gonna be the same again. I knew it. I felt it in my bones that whatever I had stepped into, there was no going back for me. In a good way. In a good way. I just knew it. So that happened, and the second night I got more of the love. I just got to experience just more of the love and just understanding my connection to everything. So that was my first ceremony. It was an amazing experience. I loved it. Now, it didn't just end there. I went to more ceremonies after that, because each experience I got to learn a little bit about myself. I got to understand why I did the things the way I did, why I had the struggles that I did. So what I used to do is that I'll go for a ceremony. I learn whatever I learn about myself. I go back to my day-to-day life, and I integrate the teachings that I got. I integrate it into my life. I remember another experience that really stood out. This is after about, I don't remember, I think it's about the 7th ceremony. I went into this, I'm learning about myself, I'm dealing with the issues that I have, and then the next thing I know, I find myself in this space, and I knew that I was with God. I was sitting there, like I was just looking there, I was like, oh my God, I'm with God. And I started talking to God. As I started talking to God, I realized that I was a part of God. And then in that moment, I saw everybody and how each and every single one of us is an extension of God, is an extension of the universe itself. And I was blown away. After that experience, I changed. At one point, I became a plant. I was sitting as a plant, enjoying my life as a plant, and then I turned into a jaguar at one point, and then I turned into something else. What that taught me is that everything is one. There is no separation. Each and everything that you see has an essence of God. And as such, we are one with God, and God is one with us. And no matter what, we can never be separated from that. It was such a gift for me to have. Since that experience, I see people differently. I've never looked at people the same way again. Do I get it right? Not all the time. Sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. But that experience taught me that I should look at everybody with reverence, because every time I'm coming in contact with anybody, whether it's a person, whether it's an animal, whether it's a tree, it carries the essence of God within. So I see God every day. I'm with God every day. What a gift to just have. So that was another experience that did stand out. And the final experience that I've carried with me and that has made such a major difference in my life is that I remembered who I was. I remembered myself as a soul. I remembered myself as this being that chose to come into this life. I had this experience where I saw myself creating this life. I was creating it. It involved geometric shapes and numbers, and I was putting this thing together. And when I was done with it, I decided that I wanted to come and live this life out. There were some people that were there. There were some beings, some people, I don't know, that were there to help me when I was making this decision that I would come into this life. And the biggest thing that I wanted to do in this life was to remember who I was. And what I understood in that moment is that once I remembered who I was, then I had the power to change my life and create it in the way that suited my heart's desire. And oh my God, oh my God. Yeah. So that's what ayahuasca gave to me. I am so grateful to that medicine. I am so grateful to the shamans that I met who were able to hold space for me. I am so grateful for just the amazing people that I met on this journey. It has changed my life forever. And no matter what, I am always going to be so grateful for having that experience. Now, for the most part, ayahuasca opened up my eyes to that side of me that I didn't have access to. I found healing. I was able to let go of just how I see myself. I started seeing myself as the divine being that I am, and just let go of a lot of things, like even just some experiences that I have from my childhood with my mom. What I realized was that all of these events, it was my orchestration. I designed it. Everything that I've encountered in my life has been by design. And I designed it. I did it. I designed this life for myself. I made it in such a way to help me remember my truth and to carry me into what I wanted to create in this life. And I don't know, it's priceless. What I got from it is priceless. Now, do I recommend anybody to take ayahuasca? Well, listen, that's a tough question, and I have no answer to that. I say do your own research. Make sure you get informed. If you're gonna do it, make sure you find people who are reputable and who make sure that you're taken care of during that time. and know yourself. It's not for everybody. I remember hearing that ayahuasca is for everybody, but everyone is not for ayahuasca, and that is very true. When I first took ayahuasca, I was ready to tell everybody, like, you need to go do ayahuasca, you need to go do ayahuasca, whatever. But from my experience, things that I've come across, I don't recommend it anymore. I say, if you're gonna do it, make sure you're well informed, make sure you speak to your doctor, make sure you do what you gotta do to protect yourself and to keep yourself safe. Trust yourself, trust your intuition. That's what I have to say. So that is my story about ayahuasca, my experience with ayahuasca. It has been a transforming experience. It has changed my life for the better. I can't even imagine what kind of a person I would be if I didn't come across it. I feel so blessed and just so honored to be able to have been given a chance to participate in a ceremony like ayahuasca. Thank you so much for watching my video today. In the next video, I'm gonna be talking about my experience with iboga. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of your week.